following is a Sultan Light special presentation.
È un onore per me presentarle questa mattina, unitamente a tutti coloro che operano nei media vaticani.
Watching live images from the Paul VI Audience Hall, where Pope Francis is holding a special audience with members of the media. Archbishop Claudio Maria Celli is greeting the Holy Father. Let's listen in.
Presentarle i giornalisti, I video operatori,
I am pleased to present to you all of the journalists, videographers,
di
photographers
81 paesi
who come from 81 different
che hanno
countries,
seguito eventi eccezionali
who have followed these exceptional
che
events
dalla rinuncia di Papa Benedetto XVI
after
alla
the
elezione di
resignation of
Vostra
Benedict
Santità
XVI.
hanno visto negli ultimi tempi la Chiesa Cattolica protagonista in un certo senso della
And your
scena
election, we
mondiale.
have seen the Catholic Church the protagonist of
Once again,
recent events.
the media has played a positive role, helping the wider public to be close to the events of these days. The world has watched with great interest, concern, and hope. The freedom and the autonomy of those who work in the media, their professionalism, and their human and intellectual passion have served to tell the story and to explain the historical happenings through which we have lived. The diversity of the media professionals, with their different approaches and priorities, coming as they do from different cultural contexts, adds to the richness of our understanding of the significance of this reality. Padre Santo, no sé si podemos comprender plenamente cómo son sus primeros días de ministerio petrino en la Iglesia, pero le estamos profundamente agradecidos que haya pensado en acogernos en audiencia esta mañana y de dirigirnos unas palabras que pueden iluminar nuestro camino en la búsqueda y en el servicio de la verdad. Ci benedica, Padre Santo, tutti noi, le nostre famiglie e il nostro lavoro. Grazie.
Archbishop Celli asking the Holy Father to bless the representatives from various media outlets from around the world who have been present during these last several weeks to cover the resignation of Benedict XVI, the conclave, and the election of Pope Francis. Everyone in this audience hall today is a journalist.
Sono lieto all'inizio del mio ministerio
I'm
nella
happy
sede
at
di
the
Pietro
beginning of my Petrine
di
ministry
incontrare voi
to meet with you,
che avete lavorato qui a Roma in questo periodo così intenso.
who have worked here at Rome in this intense period.
Annunzio del mio venerato predecessore Benedetto XVI
Covering the resignation of my
11
beloved
febbraio
predecessor.
scorso. Saluto cordialmente a ciascuno di voi.
I cordially greet each and every one of you.
Il ruolo di mass media è andato sempre crescendo in questi ultimi tempi, tanto che esso è diventato indispensabile per narrare al mondo gli eventi della storia contemporanea.
The role of mass
Un
media has
ringraziamento
become
speciale
indispensable in
rivolgo
telling the
quindi a
story
voi
of the world.
per il vostro qualificato servizio dei giorni scorsi. Avete lavorato,
You have worked very hard in these last few days.
In questi giorni scorsi,
In these last few
in
days,
cui gli occhi del mondo cattolico e non solo si sono rivolti alla città eterna, in particolare a questo territorio che ha per
the eyes of the
baricentro la
Catholic
tomba di
world
San
have been on
Pietro.
this area. on
In
this
queste
city.
settimane avete avuto modo di parlare della Santa Sede,
In
della
these weeks, you
Chiesa,
have spoken about
dei suoi
the Holy
riti e
See, the Church,
tradizioni, della sua fede e in
our
particolare
traditions and our faith,
del ruolo del Papa e del suo ministero.
and the role of the Pope and his ministry.
Un ringraziamento particolarmente sentito va a quanti hanno saputo osservare e presentare questi eventi della storia della Chiesa,
A special thanks to
tenendo
those who have
conto
known
della
how to tell the
prospettiva
story
più giusta
of the Church in these
in
moments,
cui devono essere letti, quella della fede.
presenting them
Gli
in the right
avvenimenti della storia chiedono quasi sempre una
in the right
lettura
way in which they
complessa,
should be read.
che a volte è più anche comprendere la dimensione della fede. Gli eventi ecclesiali non sono certamente più complicati di quelli politici o economici.
Church events are not
Esse
any more
però
complicated
hanno
than
una
political events.
caratteristica di fondo particolare. Rispondono a una logica che non è principalmente quella delle categorie, per così dire, mondane, e proprio per
But they
questo
operate
non
according
è
to a different
facile
logic from the rest
interpretarli
of the
e
world.
comunicarli ad un pubblico vasto e variegato.
And you've presented them to a vast and varied
La
audience.
Chiesa, infatti, pur essendo certamente anche un'istituzione umana, storica, con tutto quello che comporta,
The Church, being
non
a
ha
human and temporal
una
institution,
natura politica,
is not of a political
ma
nature,
essenzialmente spirituale.
but essentially spiritual.
È il popolo di Dio,
It is the people of
il
God,
santo popolo di Dio,
the holy people of God,
che cammina
and it walks
verso l'incontro con Gesù Cristo.
towards an encounter with Christ.
Soltanto ponendosi in questa prospettiva si può rendere pienamente ragione di quanto la Chiesa cattolica opera.
Only looking at it through
Cristo
these
è il
eyes
pastore della Chiesa, ma la sua
can we
presenza
understand what the Church
nella
is.
storia passa attraverso la libertà degli uomini. Tra
As
di
part of the
essi
history of
uno viene scelto per
mankind,
servire come suo vicario, successore dell'Apostolo Pietro, ma Cristo è il centro,
Christ is the
non
center.
il successore di Pietro, Cristo.
Not us, the successors
Cristo
of
è il
Peter,
centro.
but Christ.
Cristo è il riferimento fondamentale, il
He is
cuore
the
della Chiesa.
fundamental
Senza di lui
touchstone.
Pietro e la Chiesa non esisterebbero né avrebbero ragione
Without
d'essere.
him, the Church would not exist or have
Come ha
reason.
ripetuto più volte Benedetto XVI,
As Benedict said so many
Cristo è
times,
presente e guida la sua Chiesa.
Christ is present and
In
guides his
tutto
Church.
quanto è accaduto, il protagonista è, in ultima analisi, lo Spirito Santo.
In everything that's happened, the Holy
Egli ha
Spirit is
ispirato la
the main
decisione di
character.
Benedetto XVI per il bene della Chiesa.
Beginning
Egli ha
with the
indirizzato
decision of
nella
Benedict
preghiera
XVI
e nell'elezione i cardinali. È importante, cari amici, tenere in debito conto questo orizzonte interpretativo,
and we have to keep
questa
this in mind, dear friends.
ermeneutica,
This hermeneutic,
per mettere a fuoco il cuore degli eventi di questi giorni.
to put the heart of these events
Da chi
in
nasce
clear
anzitutto
focus.
un rinnovato e sincero ringraziamento per le fatiche di questi giorni particolarmente impegnativi,
To all of you, great
ma anche
thanks
un
for your
invito a
work in these
cercare di
extremely tiring
conoscere
days.
sempre di più la vera natura della Chiesa
You have helped reveal the true nature of the Church
e anche il suo cammino nel
and also
mondo,
its path
con le sue virtù e con i suoi peccati.
with its virtues and sins.
Conoscere le motivazioni spirituali che la guidano e che sono le più autentiche per
Understanding
comprenderla.
the spiritual
Siate certi
principles
che la
that guide
Chiesa,
it.
da parte sua, riserva una grande attenzione alla vostra preziosa opera. Voi
The
avete la
Church
capacità
deserves
di
attention
raccogliere
in your
ed
work.
esprimere le attese e le esigenze del nostro tempo e di offrire gli elementi per una lettura della realtà.
And offer the events of
Il
this
vostro
day
lavoro necessita di studio, di sensibilità, di esperienza,
as an accurate
come
depiction
tante
of
altre
reality.
professioni,
Therefore, your
ma
work requires a lot of
comporta
attention
una particolare attenzione nei confronti della verità, della bontà e della bellezza.
special
E
attention
questo
to
ci
truth
rende
and beauty.
particolarmente vicini, Perché la Chiesa esiste per comunicare proprio questo.
Because the
La
church
verità,
exists to
la
communicate
bontà
exactly
e la
this.
bellezza in persona.
Truth, abundance, and beauty
Dovrebbe
in person, personified.
Dovrebbe apparire chiaramente che siamo chiamati tutti non a comunicare noi stessi,
It should be evident we are
ma
not called
questa
to communicate
triade
ourselves,
esistenziale che conformano verità, bontà e bellezza.
but these three things.
Alcuni non sapevano perché il vescovo di Roma ha voluto chiamarsi Francesco.
Many people didn't know why the Bishop of Rome wanted to be called
Alcuni
Francis.
pensavano a Francisco
They
Saverio,
thought of Francis
a
Xavier,
Francisco de Sales, anche a Francisco
Francis
de
de
Assisi.
Sales, St. Francis of Assisi.
Io vi racconterò la storia.
Now I'll tell you the story.
Nell'elezione io avevo accanto a me
In the elections,
l'arcivescovo
beside me
emerito di San Paolo
was
e
the
anche
Archbishop
prefetto
Emeritus
emerito della
of
congregazione
San
per il
Paolo,
clero, il cardinale Claudio Humes,
Cardinal Claudio Humes,
un grande amico, un
a
grande
great
amico.
friend, a great, great friend.
Quando la cosa diveniva un po' pericolosa, lui mi confortava, no?
When things became too dangerous, he comforted me.
E quando i voti sono saliti a 2/3, viene l'applauso consueto.
And when the
perché
votes reached 2/3,
è
there was
stato eletto il
applause.
Papa. E lui mi abbracciò,
He
mi baciò,
embraced me
e mi ha detto:
He gave me a kiss.
non ti dimentichi dei poveri.
and he said, "Don't
E quella
forget the poor."
parola è entrata qui. I poveri, i poveri.
That word entered here, the poor, the poor.
Poi, subito, in relazione ai poveri, ho pensato a Francesco di Assisi.
And then right away I thought of Francis of Assisi.
Poi ho pensato alle guerre,
And then I thought of the wars,
mentre lo scrutinio proseguiva
while the scrutiny proceeded.
fino a tutti i voti. E Francesco è l'uomo della pace. E così
And then
è
Francis, man of
venuto
peace.
il nome nel mio cuore. Francesco d'Assisi.
And that's how I got the name in my
Per
heart.
me,
Francis
l'uomo
of Assisi,
della povertà,
the man of
l'uomo
poverty,
della pace,
the man of peace,
l'uomo che ama e custodisce il creato.
the man who
In
loves
questo
and takes
momento
care of
anche noi
creation.
abbiamo col creato una relazione non tanto buona, no?
In this moment in time, we
L'uomo
have
che,
not such a good
che
relationship
ci
with
dà questo
creation.
spirito di pace, l'uomo povero.
The man who gives us the spirit of peace,
Come vorrei una chiesa povera
the
e
humble
per i
man,
poveri.
as I would want a humble church.
Dopo alcuni hanno fatto diverse battute, no?
Afterwards, many made different
Tu
jokes.
dovresti già chiamarti Adriano,
You should have named yourself
perché Adriano
Adrian,
VI è stato il riformatore, bisogna riformare.
because he was a
E un
reformer.
altro mi ha detto no, il tuo nome dovrebbe essere Clemente. Ma perché?
Someone else said your name should have been Clement.
Clemente XV, così ti vindichi contro Clemente XIV che ha soppresso la compagnia di Gesù.
Clement the
Sono
15th,
battute.
so that you take revenge over Clement the 14th, who suppressed the Society of Jesus.
Vi voglio tanto bene e
I
vi
love you all very
ringrazio
much,
tutto quello che voi avete fatto
and I thank you for everything you've done.
e penso al vostro lavoro,
And I think of your work.
vi auguro di lavorare con serenità e con frutto
I hope you
e
work
di
with
conoscere
serenity and
sempre
great
meglio il
fruit,
Vangelo di Gesù Cristo e la realtà della Chiesa.
and proclaim the gospel of
Vi
Christ.
affido all'intercessione della Beata Vergine Maria, stella
And
della
I entrust you to the intercession
evangelizzazione,
of the Blessed Virgin Mary.
e auguro il meglio a voi e alle vostre famiglie.
I wish all the best to
a
you and your
ciascuno delle
families.
vostre famiglie e imparto di cuore a tutti voi la benedizione.
And I part on
Grazie
all
tante.
of you my blessing.
Sì, sì.
And a great cheer goes up in the Paul VI audience hall for Pope Francis, who has just explained why he took the name Francis, giving us a little bit of an insight, perhaps, into what happened in the conclave. He now greets some of the Vatican officials who work in various aspects of social communication. We see Father Federico Lombardi, fellow Jesuit, Vatican spokesperson, standing with Archbishop Claudio Maria Celli, presenting to the Holy Father various officials from the Pontifical Council for Social Communication. And we saw yesterday that Pope Francis is truly a people person. He greeted each and every cardinal personally yesterday. We expect nothing different from him today. He will greet these officials, no doubt. Sharing a laugh with one official who's handed him a box of some sort. The editor of the L'Osservatore Romano, Father Ciro Benedetti, the second in command of the Holy See Press Office, the Vice Director. In his address to the journalists, Pope Francis telling the media the Holy Spirit led Benedict XVI to his decision, and the Holy Spirit led the cardinals to their decision. And the Holy Spirit guides this church. It is telling that he also reminded the journalists the real story here is not the successor of Peter. The real story here is Christ. Christ is in the middle of all of this. And of course, after that address, which pleased so many in the crowd, great roars of cheers went up from the crowd of journalists at this audience. Various officials from the various Vatican social communications offices are now meeting Pope Francis. And he seems to be taking his time to get to know them, exchange a few pleasantries. Quite refreshing to hear how he revealed or gave us a hint of some of what might have gone on inside the conclave, telling us that Cardinal Claudio Humes, was sitting at his side during the conclave. And when things became quote-unquote dangerous for him, when it became clear he was getting a majority, Cardinal Humes would comfort him. And when he reached the 77 votes that were needed, Cardinal Claudio Humes comforted then Cardinal Bergoglio. Interesting that Pope Francis said, "I thought of St. Francis." When Cardinal Humes said, "Never forget the poor," I thought of St. Francis, and I kept thinking of him until the voting, the counting of the ballots was done. Oh, what a warm embrace. Clearly an old friend, presenting him with a photo to bless. A photo for the Holy Father. Another warm embrace. Oh, this woman presenting Pope Francis with the traditional mate, the traditional cup from which to drink mate, the Argentine national drink, a tea that is drunk out of a communal glass, a communal cup, with a silver straw. And our very own Father Thomas Rosica, greeting Pope Francis. Greeting Vic van Brantinghem, the man who oversees the Vatican accredited media pool during papal voyages. If you're just tuning in, you are watching Pope Francis as he greets the men and women who work in social communications for the Holy See. He has just addressed the journalists who spent the last several weeks camped out at the Vatican in many cases, covering the story of the resignation of Pope Benedict XVI, the beginning of the conclave, and the momentous decision by the cardinals to elect the first Latin American to lead the church. And we're seeing a pope who is not shy, who takes his time and exchanges words with almost everyone he's introduced to. Meeting Matteo Bruni, one of the officials from the Holy See press office. We should be prepared for a papacy very different from anything we've seen before. This is a pope who clearly is of the people, who clearly wants to connect with the men and women of the church. meeting some of the permanently accredited journalists to the Holy See Press Office. He seems to be explaining to this journalist part of his story. The one and only Japanese journalist accredited to the Holy See Press Office meeting the Holy Father. A warm, affectionate hug from another one of the journalists permanently accredited. He seems to be meeting several handpicked members of the various social communications offices of the Holy See. Including this one, obviously blind journalist accompanied by his guide dog. Greeting the officials around him. And he seems to be preparing to say a few more words.
Les dije que les daba de corazón mi bendición.
I said that I would give you my blessing.
Como muchos de ustedes no pertenecen a la Iglesia Católica,
As many of you are Catholic,
otros no son creyentes, de
are not
corazón doy
Catholic.
esta bendición en silencio a cada uno de ustedes, respetando la conciencia de cada uno, pero sabiendo que cada uno de ustedes es hijo de Dios. Que Dios los
Please know
bendiga.
that you are all children of God. May God bless you. And cries of Viva el Papa go up from the crowd. Pope Francis looking almost as if he wants to go down and meet the crowd, but obviously being told he can't do that. And that concludes this special audience with members of the media who have been covering the resignation of Pope Benedict and the election of Pope Francis, and we saw again the refreshing style, casual style of this new Pope speaking to the journalists in Italian and, of course, in his native Spanish, as many of the journalists accredited to this Holy See, to the Holy See during these weeks, are from Spanish-speaking countries, acknowledging that we are in for a very different and very exciting papacy. Now, we will be bringing you all of Pope Francis's firsts this week live. Tomorrow we'll bring you his first Angelus live at 7 a.m. Eastern. And on Tuesday morning, March 19th, which is also the feast of Saint Joseph, we will bring you live his inauguration Mass at St. Peter's Square, and that is at 4:30 a.m. Eastern. From everyone here, thank you for watching.